When you think of old Hollywood, Elizabeth Taylor is one of the first names that comes to mind. Sure, her iconic violet eyes, timeless beauty, and a stellar acting career earned her a spot in the Hollywood Hall of Fame, but let's be honest, her love life was just as legendary as her films. With 8 marriages to 7 different men, because of course she married one of them twice, Elizabeth Taylor was as famous for her weddings as she was for winning Oscars. So grab your popcorn and champagne because we're about to dive into Liz's incredible journey through love, heartbreak, and enough weddings to rival any royal family.
Iconic.
Conrad Nicky Hilton Jr., the teenage dream gone wrong. Conrad Hilton Jr., a hotel heir who seemed like the perfect first husband for the young, glamorous Elizabeth Taylor. At just 18, Liz walked down the aisle with Nicky Hilton in 1950, in what was her first of many trips to the altar. Think of it as a match made in tabloid heaven. Hollywood royalty meets real-life hotel royalty. But alas, like any good honeymoon, the magic didn't last.
I'm shocked, honestly.
Their marriage lasted all of 8 months, barely outliving their 14-week European honeymoon, which, according to Elizabeth, was more of a disaster than a dream.
This is a disaster.
In her autobiography, Elizabeth Takes Off, she wrote that Hilton became sullen, angry, and abusive, and the fairy tale romance quickly turned into a nightmare. It didn't take long for Liz to realize that Nicky was more of a Hilton than a husband. They divorced in January 1951, marking her first foray into what would become her hallmark, the amicable divorce. Hilton later died in 1969 of a heart attack, but the marriage itself was dead long before then. Michael Wilding, The Calm After the Storm. After her rocky start with Nicky Hilton, Liz took a decidedly different approach for husband number 2. Enter Michael Wilding, a British actor who was 20 years her senior. In contrast to the drama of her first marriage, Wilding brought some much-needed calm into Elizabeth's life. Think of him as the Hollywood version of herbal tea.
This is fate.
The pair wed in 1952, and for a time, life seemed pretty serene. They had 2 sons together, Michael Jr. and Christopher, and for a while it seemed like this could be the forever love Liz had been searching for. However, after 5 years of marriage, the flame fizzled out, and they split in 1957. According to Liz, the divorce was friendly, which in her world basically means they walked away without throwing too many wedding gifts at each other.
That's a good friend.
Mike Todd, the one who stole her heart. Now, this is where things really get juicy. Mike Todd wasn't just any husband. He was the first true love of Elizabeth's life. A movie producer with a flair for the dramatic, because of course, Todd swept Liz off her feet in 1957, and they were inseparable. He was 25 years older, but in Elizabeth's eyes, that just made him more experienced in the art of love. They had a whirlwind romance, and it seemed like Liz had finally found her perfect match. They had a daughter, Liza, and attended the Oscars together like the power couple they were, complete with Liz wearing a tiara that Mike gifted her. Talk about royal treatment.
Treat me like a queen, it's fine.
But tragedy struck in 1958 when Mike died in a plane crash. The loss devastated Liz, who later admitted she wasn't sure she would survive the grief. This was a love story that ended too soon, leaving a lasting impression on Liz and anyone who followed her love life after. Eddie Fisher, The Scandalous Affair. If Liz's relationship with Mike Todd was a grand love story, her marriage to Eddie Fisher was pure scandal. Still reeling from Todd's death, Liz found comfort in Eddie, a close friend of Todd's who was conveniently married to Debbie Reynolds at the time. But when you're Elizabeth Taylor, love doesn't play by the rules. Eddie left Debbie, who happened to be Liz's best friend, and the tabloids had a field day calling Liz a homewrecker. In her autobiography, Liz swears that Eddie's marriage was already doomed before she entered the picture. Still, the headline stuck, and the couple's scandalous union overshadowed any chance at real happiness. Liz admitted that she never truly loved Eddie. He was simply a temporary distraction from her heartbreak over Mike. The drama came to an end when Liz met Richard Burton, and, well, we all know where that's headed. Eddie and Liz divorced in 1964, and Eddie was soon relegated to a footnote in the Taylor love saga.
Next.
Richard Burton, the love that burned, twice. If Elizabeth Taylor's love life had a leading man, it would be Richard Burton. The two met while filming Cleopatra in 1963, and their affair was one for the ages, complete with Vatican condemnations for their erotic vagrancy. Liz was still married to Eddie Fisher, but once Richard Burton entered the picture, Fisher didn't stand a chance. Liz and Richard married in 1964, marking the beginning of one of Hollywood's most turbulent and passionate romances. The couple became famous for their lavish lifestyle, extravagant gifts, hello, 33-carat diamond ring, and legendary fights. They divorced in 1974, but like any good sequel, they couldn't stay away from each other for long. In 1975, they remarried, proving that even the most volatile love stories can get a second wind. Unfortunately, their second marriage was short-lived, lasting less than a year. But even after their final split, Liz always maintained that Richard was the love of her life.
Potato pancakes are the love of my life.
John Warner, the politician phase. After the wild ride that was Richard Burton, Elizabeth Taylor decided to switch things up for husband number 6. Enter John Warner, a Virginia senator who brought some political flair to Liz's love life. In 1976, Liz traded in her Hollywood spotlight for the more subdued role of a senator's wife. Imagine it, Elizabeth Taylor, Hollywood royalty, suddenly becoming a Washington, D.C. socialite. She went from red carpets to campaign trails, shaking hands with politicians instead of movie stars. But as glamorous as it all seemed, this relationship didn't have the same sparkle as her previous ones. Liz admitted later that being a senator's wife wasn't exactly her idea of a good time. "I was bored half the time," she famously quipped. After 6 years of navigating life in politics, and probably more than a few stuffy dinner parties, Liz realized that while Warner was great for photo ops, he wasn't exactly a match made in heaven. In 1982, Liz and John Warner divorced, and just like that, Hollywood's queen returned to her throne. But don't worry, her love story didn't end there. She had one more wedding up her sleeve.
You ready to feel it one more time?
Larry Fortensky, the construction worker and the comeback. And now we arrive at Elizabeth Taylor's final act in the romance department, Larry Fortensky. Liz met Larry at the most unlikely of places, a rehab clinic. While it sounds like the plot of a made-for-TV movie, it was the real deal. Larry, a construction worker 20 years her junior, seemed like an unlikely match for Hollywood's biggest star, but Liz had a way of keeping things interesting.
She did it. She did it. She did it.
In 1991, they tied the knot in what could only be described as the most Elizabeth Taylor wedding ever. Held at Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch, the guest list included everyone from Hollywood elite to the king of pop himself. Liz wore a $25,000 Valentino gown, and while it wasn't her most extravagant wedding, it certainly ranked high on the glamour scale. For a while, things seemed to be working out. Larry, the down-to-earth construction worker, was a refreshing change from the high-profile men she'd been married to in the past. But eventually, the fairy tale ended. By 1996, Liz and Larry called it quits, marking the end of her incredible string of marriages.
Wow, we're just gonna let that one go.
By the time Elizabeth Taylor was done with love, she had racked up a record-breaking number of weddings that even modern-day reality stars can't compete with. 8 marriages, 7 husbands, and a whole lot of diamonds. Liz lived her love life just as she lived her career. Bold, unapologetic, and larger than life. While some people might see her string of marriages as excessive, Liz always believed in love and gave her heart fully each time. "I am a very committed wife," she once said, "and I should be committed too, for being married so many times." But beyond the headlines, Elizabeth Taylor's love life showed us that even the brightest stars sometimes falter in their search for lasting love. Her romances, full of passion and drama, were a reflection of her. Complex, dazzling, and never boring. Liz may have been married 8 times, but her impact on Hollywood and the world of romance is eternal. If you love staying updated on celebrity romances, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. More exciting love stories and relationship updates are coming your way, and you won't want to miss them. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.